Hey guys, welcome to the Massive Iron Channel. I'm Steve Shaw. In this video, we're going to ask the question, are we wrong about building massive traps? Before I get into this topic, if you have any questions or comments, drop them down below. The best topic ideas I turn into videos just like this. If you need coaching, I'd love to work with you. Check out the link below. All right, are we wrong about massive traps? Some of you might have heard about this. Some of you are unfamiliar with what exactly the traps do, which muscle groups make up the traps, etc. We're going to dive into everything in this video. Hopefully it clears things up. It's not going to involve any dramatic changes to your programming. You're probably doing everything you need right now. But if not, it'll allow you to refocus a few things, get on track, and get on board with building some massive traps. All right. Now, conventional traps training involves the shrug, the dumbbell shrug, the barbell shrug, and all similar variations. We're all very familiar with this. And at times there can be some discussions whether you should do the mind muscle type of shrug or the power shrug, and you see all the heated types of debates on social media. Now, here is the issue. Shrugs alone do not completely target all areas of the traps. There are actually 3 areas of the traps. Shrugs only target mostly the vertical plane. If you look at this graphic, you can see there are 3 areas of the traps. The upper traps or upper fibers, middle traps, and lower traps. We're going to get into what each of them does, but stupid simple, the vertical or upper fibers tend to, but stupid simple, there's 3 functions of the traps in totality. You have the vertical, which is the movement like this. You have retraction, which is the movement like this, scapular retraction. And you have the lower traps, which are involved with stabilization. Now, the vertical aspect of the traps is the one we're most familiar with. And this vertical fiber orientation and the part of the traps that are involved with vertical fiber orientation are best with heavy, challenging loads. They are typically things like your shrugs, dumbbell and barbell shrugs, your carries like a farmer's carry, your deadlifts, or even like a static hold when we do static holds after RDLs or deadlifts. Now, the traps are also involved with retraction, and this is something we don't talk about enough. Now, the traps are also involved with retraction, and this is something we don't talk about enough. Retraction is worked through rows. So to build your traps, we're not just working on our vertical or our shruggies. We're also focusing on heavy ass rows. In the massive iron world, this is a staple of my training approach. This is a staple of my philosophy. We want to do heavy ass rows. People will look at me and they'll say your traps, your upper back, your mid back, some of your strongest muscle groups. How do you achieve this? I have pretty much an extreme obsession with doing not just my vertical stuff and not just my static holds and not just my deadlifts, but also heavy rows. This retraction that we're looking at, we're not just talking about lifts like face pulls that don't provide enough stimulation. We're talking about heavy rowing, heavy dumbbell rowing, barbell rowing, chest supported rows, seated rows, adding in a lot of quality rowing movements that involve this type of scapular retraction or basically driving the elbows back. Now, if you're looking at developing a well-rounded plan of attack to grow your traps from head to toe, yes, we want to do our heavy shrugs, and yes, we want to do our deadlifts. Those are usually involved in our program to begin with. You can do heavy load-bearing things like carries. Load-bearing stuff is involved with RDLs. When you're doing an RDL, you have that kind of inherent load already built into the exercise. You're already holding the dumbbells or barbells, whatever you're doing for an RDL. And you can also add in static holds at the end of an RDL set, a deadlift set, or even at the end of a barbell row set. This will work that vertical plane and add in a little bit extra tension, a little bit extra stress, and there's really no downside to doing so. Now, to flesh out your traps training, We want rows, we want rows, and we want rows. We want some row variations. If you follow my programming, you probably notice that we do basically a 2-to-1 ratio of horizontal rowing compared to vertical rowing. It's not that vertical pulling like pull-ups or lat pull-downs are bad. They're not. We're going to get those in each week. It's just that we want to do a lot more rows. We want to build that big, thick back with our rows, and we want to target the traps as well. Now, you can add in things like the Kelso shrug, and the Kelso shrug is a pretty obscure exercise, but it is something you can Google. Now, the Kelso shrug is really easy to add in. You can just do your seated cable rows, and you can just work in your Kelso shrugs when you're done. Really easy to set up, really easy to execute, not a complicated movement. From there, you could also add in something like a very high-angled chest-supported row, which is going to target those mid-traps as well. Something like this you could add in as like a finisher when you're done with your vertical pulling, when you're done with your horizontal rowing, when you're done with your traps work and your deadlift. You could toss it in kind of as the finishing move for your back or traps training. Now, when it comes to the lower traps, they're more of a stabilizer muscle group, and they naturally come into play with a battery of upper body exercises. So pretty much a lot of what you're doing with your upper body movements are going to hit your lower traps. We really don't have to worry about targeting the lower traps. That stabilization that they are involved with is just going to be generally hit naturally. Now, curiously enough, when we are doing our overhead pressing, this kind of vertical thing that we're experiencing on typical shrugs, our shrug, dumbbell and barbell shrugs, we're getting in kind of that same movement, that same motion when it comes to overhead pressing and side lateral raises. Now, it's not going to be unusual for you to experience some higher trap muscle soreness from doing overheads or laterals, especially if you've not done them in a while. Now, final thoughts. Traps training is pretty simple, and we don't have to make a lot of moves. We use a well-rounded approach. Hit your shruggies, but include some rows, some heavy-ass rows, and make sure to get in that vertical tension each week through dumbbell shrugs, barbell shrugs, deadlifts, whatever, and toss in some Kelso shrugs and maybe some high-angled chest-supported rows if you have time. So guys, hope this video has been of some help. If you have any questions or comments, drop them down below. If you made it this far in this video and have yet to subscribe to my channel, please do. I'd appreciate the support. So guys, as always, thanks for watching. Have a great day.